Our second witness is Sarah Richard, the Executive Director of the Kelton House Museum and Garden. Welcome to committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, for allowing me to speak here today. My name is Sarah Richard, and I am the Executive Director of the Kelton House Museum and Garden, an Underground Railroad site and local history museum. But I choose not to be the face of the Underground Railroad. Here, I brought a visual aid for you all today. This is Martha Hartway, a freedom seeker in Columbus, Ohio, who is the much more important figure that I want to talk about today. But awareness months are an important tool to highlight cultural and historic issues. Although the Underground Railroad is a known issue and subject taught in schools, often is just a brief chapter forgotten by the next quiz. The passing of House Bill 340, making September International Underground Railroad Month, will spotlight the history and historic sites in the state of Ohio that teach about the Underground Railroad, along with the story of the freedom seekers and the abolitionists. Fernando and Sophia Kelton were abolitionists in Columbus, Ohio. Their home stood, it was built in 1852, and it stood almost exactly 1 mile from where we're standing here today. In 1976, the Kelton House was donated to the Columbus Foundation by Sophia and Fernando's granddaughter, Grace Kelton, and is run by the Junior League of Columbus as a museum focusing on decorative arts and local history. As a privately funded museum and historic site, the Junior League of Columbus continues to raise money to preserve the important story and the site in which this story lies. The Kelton House Underground Railroad Learning Station was created in 2002, and since then has taught approximately 4,000 students per year about the Underground Railroad. Last month alone, we had 1,000 students come back to the Kelton House for the first time in 2 years, which brings us a little over 80,000 students we've talked to about this very important subject. But even with all of these fourth graders coming every year and attending, people in Columbus do not know the rich history that's here about the Underground Railroad. They do not know about the Keltons' contribution, and most importantly, they do not know the story of Martha Hartway and her sister Pearl, whose journey from a plantation in Virginia to find freedom led them to Columbus, Ohio. Martha left that plantation at the young age of 10, her sister 14, and we are honored to tell their story every day. Martha not only traveled along the Underground Railroad, she then stayed with the Keltons for over a decade, living with the Keltons as one of their own children, even marrying in the front parlor of 586 East Town Street. And that ceremony was officiated by Reverend Poindexter, who you mentioned a moment ago. Designating September as International Underground Railroad Month is a powerful step to call attention to this point in history that brings together people of multiple religions, race, and heritage in order to right an injustice. The simple 25 words of House Bill 340 has the power to capture the attention of the state, even for just 30 days, to continue the stories told by Frederick Douglass, Wilbur Siebert, and Levi Coffin. The Junior League of Columbus and the Kelton House Museum and Garden has actively told that story of the Keltons and Hartways for over 45 years. We will continue our commitment to preserve and educate about the Underground Railroad. The passage of House Bill 340 will make teaching this story much easier. Thank you for your time and attention, and I would entertain any questions that you have.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for this witness? Well, thank you for all the work you do with the Kelton House Museum and Gardens to just keep the history alive and in the memories of people. I do have a question. So this was Martha?
This is Martha.
Okay. And you mentioned in your testimony she was 10 years old when
she was 10 and her sister was 14, and they made it from Virginia outside of Richmond to Columbus, Ohio. Martha was very ill by the time she got here, and but the Keltons, they found her in their backyard, found them. Pearl continued on and made her way to, attempted to make her way to Canada, but she ended up in Wisconsin, and Martha stayed here.
So 2 questions. And how long did that journey take from the plantation to, and then how old was she when that photo?
This was taken when probably in the 1910, around that time period. She was about 60 years old when this was taken. She stayed here, she married here, she had 2 children here, named her children after the Kelton family children, and her son became the first African American to graduate from Ohio State Medical School.
Wow, very good. All right. Thank you so much for
You're
that.
welcome. And consider this an invitation to come to the Kelton House and visit if you haven't seen our site.
Thank you.